One way to solve a quadratic equation is by using square roots. If you have a quadratic in the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, when you're solving a quadratic equation, you'll be setting the y value equal to 0. And if this middle term is 0, a nice way to solve this is by using square roots, because you'll have a squared value on one side, and then you can move that c to the other side and then take the square root. If you don't have it in this form, you still might be able to solve it if you have it in the form y equals ax minus h squared plus k. You can also solve it this way. You'll just need to move the k to the other side, divide by a, and then you can take the square root. So as long as your b term is 0, or you have it in this form where you just have a squared quantity and a number, you'll be able to isolate your squared term, take the square root of both sides, and then you may still need to get x by itself. Let's do some examples. On this first one, I'm going to add 33 to both sides. And that gives me 5x squared equals 36. Divide both sides by 5. And then when I take the square root of both sides, I'll end up with a plus or minus. And you can use your calculator to approximate what that is. So square root of 36 over 5. And so that's about plus or minus 2.68. On the next one, I need to get my square term by itself, so I'm going to divide by 2. And so I get plus or minus square root of 16 when I take the square root of both sides. The square will undo, or the square root will undo the square here. And so this is a perfect square, perfect square. So that'll just be plus or minus 4. On the next example, you need to get your square term by itself. Divide by 3. To undo a square, you're going to use a square root, so plus or minus when I do that. And then this is going to be approximately, so square root of 5. Gives you about 2.24. I'm going to just round these to the nearest hundredth. For example 4. Get your variable by itself. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides. Divide by 3. And then I'll take the square root. So x equals plus or minus the square root of 14. And that's going to be approximately 3.74 to the nearest hundredth. On the next one, it's a little bit different. You have to get rid of the 7 first. So I'm going to divide both sides by 7. I cannot add 4 to both sides because that 4 is in parentheses and squared. To undo a square, you take the square root. Square root of this side will be x minus 4, and the other side you'll have plus or minus 2. And I'm going to add 4 to both sides now. And then I get 2 solutions for x. One is going to be 4 plus 2, which is 6. The other is 4 minus 2, which is 2. Last example, get your square term by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. I cannot add 7 because that's in parentheses and squared. So to undo the square, I'm going to use the square root. So x minus 7 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 9. So x minus 7 is going to equal plus or minus 3. Add 7 to both sides. 7 plus 3 is 10. 7 minus 3 is 4. And that completes our notes.